And then Rihanna, we knew that she was. What do you know about her?
We know she's not from Charleston or Gainesville because of number 1.
Is the number 1.
And we know Wendy's not from Provo.
Right. So we knew. So like I guess like the initial. I mean, I guess like if I just want to fast forward, I would basically say, all these initial check boxes here were like things that were pretty easy to pull from the statements, right? And this is where probably the hardest part came, because the next step you have to combine clues 1 and 2 to realize what you could eliminate next. So I made a note that either the 2 bottom parts could be Wendy's cousins, right? That's why I marked them WC. And then what you had to figure out was that those 2, the squared boxes would be the Charleston and Gainesville boxes, and Rihanna couldn't be related, so Wendy and I don't even know how to explain this right.
May I interrupt you right now? Could you tell us, when you drew that box, what part of the problem-solving process are you on? Are you re-understanding the problem? Are we coming up with a new plan there? Are we executing a plan? What is that box you drew?
I feel like it has to be new because it's more than just finding the clues within the statements. You have to combine the statements.
So what I think I'm hearing is that you read through all these problems,
Yeah.
and you got as much information as you could out of them, but then you were stuck. You had to do something else.
Yeah.
All right. So what does that tell us about the problem-solving process?
It's recursive.
What can you say more about that? What do you mean by
Well,
that?
you have strategy, you go until it doesn't work,
You try
and then you say, okay, why didn't it work? And then you go back to the problem, figure out a strategy to overcome the impasse.
It's like iterative design.
Al, did you keep going further? How did we break through?
How do we break through? I guess you tried to find what couldn't be marked together. So like you couldn't have the Rihanna and Provo marked with the Wendy in the middle boxes. But Wendy would have to be one of the middle boxes, right? She can't be San Francisco or Provo. So Wendy has to be one of the middle boxes. So because of that, and because you can't have the middle boxes and the lower right box marked, then Rihanna can't be the lower right box. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know the language to explain it, but
Well, why don't you go forward and see what was the next
You
thing
did a
we did?
reductio ad absurdum argument. So
You wanna try-
what that means is you.
Yeah, we could totally
That's
ask.
what it is in logic. So basically,
So the
you
question
made
is
a
if you guys want
postulate
someone to
and
do
then
that.
prove that it leads to a possible
We
conclusion.
felt like we didn't know.
I mean, that's the question, right?
Well, I
How are
mean,
you going to get them
I think
to
we're
do that?
discovering that we don't know where it
I
fits in
think right
anymore.
now, they're not using the terminology, but they basically said, this is when we decoded the problem.
Yeah.
They didn't use the language specifically, and then they said, that was when we had this plan where we figured it out, but then we had to make another plan to combine these other elements. So they've already identified it, they're just not using the term.
I mean, it's useful. At least for me, it's useful to talk through what I had to do. It wasn't easy for me to. It took me 3 or 4 minutes just to say Wendy has to be one of the middle 2 boxes, and I know
Right.
if you select one of the middle 2 boxes, you can't select the lower right box. It wasn't. I didn't know how to say that initially when you asked me.
I'm curious if you can mark the time.
Yeah,
If you
sure.
were to give it to him.
You actually can mark it. You can add marks with that red button, I believe. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a mark.
Nice. And then can you scroll back to the other one? To your last point, before you started filling it. Yeah, a little more. Yeah, that one.
Mark that.
Yep, that was your one where you paused.
Okay. Yeah. That was the biggest part right there. That was the biggest problem.
I want to push through right past the second marker. And I think this is the most difficult part of this problem to articulate. That X you're about to mark. Keep going.
Say yes right here.
The yes. We need a really strong, very clear explanation of why we were able to put a yes there. That's the crux of this problem.
Right. Oh, I thought, yeah, that's basically what I feel like I just said a minute before, which if you have Wendy in the middle 2 boxes, You can't have her be in the lower right. You can't have Brianna be in the lower right box.
Wait, the lower right box is Wendy's cousin.
Well, yeah, this is a notation for me. What I meant to, I guess what I meant is, by drawing those boxes, I meant to note that you can't have X's appear in both of those squared areas.
Okay, Wendy can't be both not from Charleston and not from Gainesville.
What I meant to
But how does
say,
that tell us